Well, as you can see, I'm at Lake Bled again, and it's a beautiful morning. Had some nice pre-sunrise colours. The sun hasn't actually risen yet. I think another 15 more minutes before it actually rises. We got a brief bit of colour, not a huge amount. There's some nice scattered cloud around as well, so hopefully as it gets higher, this might light up a bit. But what I really want to do today is try to get some long exposure minimalist shots just of the island church itself. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I recently got myself a 10-stop square ND filter from Kase, and I've been dying to try it out. Now, it's perfect for situations like this. Now, the problem with the long exposures is that without any filters, you can only really do them when the light is low. Now that's great, this gives you nice shots, blue hour shots, for example, but right now it's got quite bright. And right now I can only get 8 seconds at f16 ISO 100. And I want to get 30 seconds to a minute. And the reason I want to do that is I want to completely smooth out the water, get some nice streaky clouds, and get that really lovely minimalist effect. So that's what I'm going to try to do today. Now the sun is going to come up somewhere over there. I'll get the Photopills app out in a minute and we'll try to plot exactly where it's going to come up. So as it starts to get brighter, I'll stick the 10-stop filter on, and then when I've decided, or when I've found out I should say, where the sun is going to rise, then we'll try also to capture a shot of the sun coming up over those mountains behind the island church itself. So hopefully it's going to be a great morning. So it's 5:45, actual sunrise, I believe. It's Monday the 1st of August, 5:45. We're right at the point of sunrise now. Obviously the sun has risen on the horizon, and the horizon obviously is blocked by these beautiful mountains. These are the Karavanke Alps. And it's going to take a while before it comes up over the area where it's going to come up. So we can use the Photopills app and the Augmented Reality. So we go into the planner basically and select AR at the bottom left, and then point it towards our scene. Now this is a really, really great feature. Click now, and that tells you where the sun is right now. So if we're looking here, there we go, 5:45, the sun is just on the waterline, so way behind those mountains there. Now we can move it this way to see where it's going to come up. And we can see from this vantage point, it's going to come up right by the right side of that big mountain peak there. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll find that out in a minute. So that's where the sun's going to come up. Now I could move further down and get that sun coming up closer to the church itself. I'm not sure if I'll do that. I'll play around with some compositions now with that church, with the church and the mountain in, and I'll see if I need to move or not. But right now I want to concentrate, before that sun comes up, I want to concentrate on getting a few nice minimalistic shots of the island church itself with that cloud behind. And hopefully when that sun comes up, it will get a bit brighter and we'll get some nicer effects, some bright light, some nice light on the water. So we can do like a nice high key, long exposure, minimalistic shot of the island church itself. That's what I want to do. I've got plenty of time, because according to this, it's not going to come up over that mountain peak till around 6:40. So I've got a good 50 minutes really. So I've got time. So that's the great thing about this augmented reality. So So now it's sunrise, starting to get some colour in the clouds there. I've switched to a 4-stop soft grad to try and retain the detail there, because I'm pushing the exposure to the right. I'm actually overexposing by 1 stop because I want to get everything nice and bright, and I want to get that island nice and bright. Now, because it's backlit, because the light's coming up from behind, I want to make sure that I push that exposure to the right to make sure that the island is bright enough that the green of the trees comes out nicely. But at the same time, I don't want to blow out my sky. So I've put the 4-stop soft grad on to hold back the detail in the sky. Now, because it's getting brighter, I'm only getting a 3-second exposure, f16 ISO 100. So now I want to put my filter on. So this is the 10-stop ND filter by Kase. Fantastic filter. I reviewed this in my last video, so go check that out. I'll put a link up there to that now. Now, the ND filter needs to go in front. Got a bug on there. So I need to move the grad to the 2nd slot so that I can slot in the ND filter. There we go. I want to make sure that I focus first and lock that focus, because it's going to be very hard to focus through this. Now I put this in, now it's gone completely dark. So now it's flashing 30, which means it wants more than 30 seconds. If I go take my ISO up to 800, it's flashing away like nobody's business. So what I'm going to do is remove it and use, oh, that was in the wrong slot, not good. There we go, that's better. These are not Kase grad filters, so they do go in, but they can be a little bit fiddly sometimes. So I want to take, oh, now without the ND filter, I've got 0.6, 16, f16, ISO 400, 0.6 of a second. So 1/6 of a second. Now if I put this on, now it's back to the Photopills app to use the exposure calculator. ISO 400. I explained how to do all this in my last video and why I'm doing it, so you can go watch that. One-sixth of a second, f16. I want to make that also ISO 14, ISO 400, sorry, f16, 10-stop filter. That will give me 2 minutes 51 seconds. So let's switch that to bulb. Make sure I've got my aperture on. Set my timer, and away we go for a 2 minute 51 second exposure. Would you believe? 2 people in a canoe come in my shot. That's the worst thing you can have when you're doing a long exposure, because then they're going to be blurred. I most likely have to clone them out. And they're staying remarkably still. One of the problems you can sometimes have with really long exposures of 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes is long exposure noise. Noise as a result of the long exposure, because the sensor gets hot. But it's early morning, it's quite cool here by the lake, so hopefully that's having a cooling effect on the sensor. And it's quite bright, so hopefully I won't get too much noise. And that's the result. I'll stick that up there now. Well, it's getting warmer now, the sun's come up. Caught me a bit by surprise. The augmented reality was a bit off, but that could be because the GPS in the phone was off. I don't know what it was, but it came up a bit more to the right than what the AR said it would. And of course it came up half an hour earlier than it said it would. So not quite sure what went wrong there. But anyway, thankfully I had a composition set already and I was able to take advantage of that moment. Now it's very, very bright. Now if I want to get my minimalist image, I can only get 1/15 of a second f/16 ISO 400. Even if I took that down to ISO 100, I can still get 1/4 of a second. I want to overexpose it. I want to make everything nice and bright. I've got the 3-stop grad on. I might actually change it to, no, I think I'll leave it as the 3-stop, otherwise the balance will be too much, then the water will be too bright. So I'm still getting 0.6 of a second at f/16 ISO 100, so it's still not really a long enough exposure. So I'm going to see what that will give me when I put my ND filter on. My test setting is ISO 100 and it's giving me 1/6 of a second at f/16. So equalize those settings on what I'm looking for. ISO 100 f/16, 10 stops. That will give me again 2 minutes 51 seconds. Now I want to, oh good, that's overexposed. So 2 minutes 51 seconds plus, that's plus 1 stop. So I've already calculated that on my test settings. So position the grad over the bright area where the sun is. Now the sun's gone behind the clouds, so that's a perfect time because I don't want that sun to be visible because then it's going to be way too bright in my exposure. Okay, I'll put my ND filter in. Flip to manual. Switch to bulb. f/16 and start my timer. Two minutes 51 seconds, and now the sun's coming out of the cloud. Well, we'll see what happens. So from here I've got a much straighter view actually, and I've got the island a little bit straighter too. So now that sun is going behind that cloud again, I'm going to try another 2 minute 50 second exposure. And this time, thankfully, because it's low, I can watch the timer on the top. That's about 220 seconds. Let's see. Sun. That's pretty high key. We'll go into the Photoshop and see what we can do with these, but now that sun's up again. Well, this was the only shot that didn't actually have any lens flare in it. Not the greatest of shots, but still, there you go. As you can see, it's always a problem shooting into the light like this. And when the sun is bright like it was, you get this problem with lens flare. And the only way to avoid it is to, as I tried as much as possible, that the sun goes behind the clouds. But the problem is when you're doing long exposures like 2-3 minutes, within that time the chances of the sun coming out of the clouds is very high, which it has done. Even in this shot, you know, you can still see that these areas up in the top left corner is extremely blown out, and the foreground is extremely bright. So this is, although it's an interesting image, it's nothing that special. So I much prefer this first image I shot before the sun came up. Some nice clouds in the sky there, and the long exposure has smoothed out the water, created a lovely reflection, and overall I think it looks much nicer. Although it's not high key as I intended, it's definitely much better than the high key I attempted later on. But still, at least I got a great sunrise shot, and so the whole morning was pretty good nonetheless. So thanks for watching as always, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and check out some of my other videos. And thanks for watching again. Catch you later. Bye bye.